Hello and welcome to Comes to News, the What You Played news show all about gaming news from the last couple of weeks. My name's Matthew Jude and let me tell you, there's been a lot of gaming news. Space, the final frontier, other than like our minds, but no one wants to go in there because that would be terrifying. So instead, we start this week with Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, where we again return to Mars to give it a good old once over, making it fit for human life, but this time only using cards. Though I also believe it will have apparently a small board with it. Apparently, maybe. Last year we found out about the Terraforming Mars dice game. And the base game itself got a big mega box upgrade set which had deluxe components and enough space to store the plethora of expansions. So by now you'd be forgiven for thinking that Mars was well and truly terraformed. But hey, Gloomhaven looked pretty finished until they released Jaws the Lion. And I think this may be doing somewhat the same thing with a card game aimed at a wider audience. Which is all my own personal wild speculation, because all I've seen is the Board Game Geek page for it, which is as barren as a surface of Neptune. No one ever wants to terraform Neptune. Ares Expedition is being designed by the original Terraforming Mars designer, Jacob Frixelius, as well as Stronghold Games Director of Game Development, Sidney Engelstein, and indie board and cards developer, Nick Little. And its tagline so far is an engine building game in which players control interplanetary corporations with the goal of making Mars habitable and profitable. It's going to be completely standalone from any other Terraforming Mars products, and it's going to have, according to Stronghold Games, faster gameplay and over 200 beautifully illustrated cards. There's no hard release date other than the coming soon landing page on Kickstarter, but I love Terraforming Mars. I'm interested in the dice game, and I'm very intrigued by this new card game. And now here's a word on the sponsor that helped make this episode possible, Sherlock 13 by Arcane Wonders.
In Sherlock 13, players take on the role of a detective, trying to unmask the infamous thief Arsène Lupin, who is among them, but in disguise. Arsène Lupin.
Yes.
I win! But unmasking Lupin isn't going to be as easy as it was in my wildly inaccurate depiction, because the game consists of 13 character cards with 2 to 3 characteristics each, and each characteristic is shared by 3 to 5 characters. Then, before the game begins, one card is secretly put aside which depicts the disguise that Lupin is wearing. Players then ask questions to one another to gain the clues necessary to deduce which disguise Arsène has donned. It's up to you, and you alone, to solve this case, deducing the true criminal using your logic and wit. But hurry, because your fellow suspicious investigators, well, they're trying to do the same in Sherlock 13, which is available right now by following the link in this video's description. Or it totally is. It's available right now, right this very moment. Get it.
Port Arcane, which I said was happening, happened, thus proving my journalistic integrity. Hello, I have multiple podcasts and a budding essential oil candle company. So, Ignacy Trzewiczek, the king of Portal games and alleged cookies thief, brought us his keynote address and announced just loads of stuff. We have $1 Million Script, a storytelling and story inventing party game, which is something very new for Portal games. We've got Dune House Secret, a detective inspired game set in the Duneverse. 11, which is a football manager board game, which I'm really interested in, as I know Ignacy loves football, like a lot. And Dreadful Circus, which is a really fun looking, clever card game. But there's also 2 expansions for Empire of the North, a 51st State expansion, a Hiroshima Hex expansion, a Hiroshima Hex Deluxe Core Box, a huge new campaign book for Robinson Crusoe. It's a massive mix of new games and support for their previous titles. And the keynotes themselves were pretty snazzy, so you can watch the whole thing over at Portal Games' YouTube channel. La Boîte de Jeux have announced a game that I'm really excited about, because I tell you, their recent game from 2019, It's a Wonderful World, is a fantastic game, other than sounding like It's a Wonderful Life, which I also then get confused with Life is Beautiful, which is an amazing film. Anyway, they've announced It's a Wonderful Kingdom, not to be confused with He's a Wonderful Klingon. But the new sequel is a 1 or 2 player standalone game with a low fantasy theme. The new game is said to have more interaction than the original card drafting engine builder It's a Wonderful World, with Kingdom having added bluffing and challenges. Though I don't know if that means goals to achieve or obstacles to overcome as you play. One thing that got me excited is that it appears that the game is played using modules, each different and offering mechanical variants. In each game, players will choose one of the different modules to compete against each other, which sounds really cool. I love modules in games like First Class and Taverns of Tiefenthal, and while this is probably going to be different to those, something about having various modules to pit against each other, that just sounds cool. It's a Wonderful Kingdom is another game coming to Kickstarter, and April seems to be the consensus of the date so far. The Initiative was another game announced from Unexpected Games, and what makes this one exciting for a lot of people is that it's from designer Corey Konieczka. Corey left Fantasy Flight in August of last year, where he designed and co-designed and worked on a list of games that's frankly incredible, such as Star Wars Rebellion, Star Wars Outer Rim, Forbidden Stars, TI4. It's a long list. But his first game in his new company, Unexpected Games, is The Initiative, a cooperative board game of story, strategy and code breaking. Players take on the role of teenagers back in 1994 who have found a mysterious board game called The Key. And I can't stress this enough, if you find a mysterious board game, possibly magical, don't play it. The game's campaign, which is linked by an interactive comic book, is broken into chapters, each taking 30 to 60 minutes to complete, and each starting with you reading a page of the comic. The story advances even if players fail a mission, but winning may provide a reward in the future. Each chapter builds on the knowledge and story from previous chapters, and according to Unexpected Games, it all weaves a narrative of code breaking and mystery, and I do like mysteries. Bigfoot is real. I fundamentally believe that. There's actually been a lot of announcements, so here are some quickfire news items for you. Seriously, I believe in Bigfoot. Lookout Games will release Frantic Fiends around October, which is the second big box expansion for Caverna. There's almost no information available other than there's Frantic Fiends ravaging the lands and threatening your caves. So you'll need to not only build up your dwarvish farming empire, you'll also have to fight off orcs in an expansion that provides what Lookout Games have called a marvellously mean twist. Lookout Games also announced Llama Land. Sold. I am sold. It's by prolific designer Phil Walker Harding of Sushi Go, Imhotep, Baron Park, Gizmos, Silver and Gold. He's done a lot of great games. The Adventure Games series, Cacao. I almost forgot about Cacao. Archaeology, the card game. Anyway, Llama Land. Apparently the plateaus are wild and stunningly beautiful and full of llamas. And according to Lookout Games, being a farmer isn't exactly easy with all those hills and mountains around, but still growing potatoes and corn and cocoa on those slopes of the mountains it's what you love, according to Lookout Games. You can't get enough. And in about 45 minutes, you and your llama friends will have an impressive crop growing area in front of you. Also, behind you, maybe a Bigfoot. That's the thing about Bigfoot. He could be anywhere. Days of Wonder have announced Ticket to Ride Europe 15th Anniversary Edition, which is the new limited edition version of Ticket to Ride Europe. The new version comes with a giant board with new illustrations, 5 tin boxes with 45 fancy looking wagon cars, as well as a cool looking stations and other bits and pieces that look nice, like nice looking player markers. The deluxe oversized version of the game, which is their words, not mine, is out this spring. And my last rapid news item is Sagrada Legacy. Yep. That's pretty much all we know so far about that one, but I do love Sagrada, so a legacy version where the game evolves and changes as you play from game to game sounds good. No idea how it will work, but I'm very interested.
Hang on on there a second, Matthew, because there's one more quick fire news item I want to be sure to mention, and that is Watch It Played's official Patreon campaign launched this very week. Is that news? Why, yes, I'm making it news because the Watch It Played Patreon offers several very exciting perks for our backers, including behind the scenes footage, extra vlogs and videos, a chance to help pick the games that are covered in several upcoming videos, super special top secret personal messages, and of course, more. So if that sounds like something that you'd like to consider, well, follow the link in this video's description and check it out.
And our final piece of precious paper-based Red Raven have announced Now or Never, the next game in the Ravenverse, which is what I call it, and almost no one else does. But it follows Near and Far, Above and Below, and one North Hollywood branch of In and Out. Now or Never has you and up to 3 of your friends, though I prefer to play with my enemies, competing to best rebuild your ancestral village and guide the rest of the villagers on their way home. And although the creatures of the meteorite, yep, apparently there's a meteorite now, have lost much of their strength, many of them remain, and you must fight them off to protect travelling villagers. Now or Never is a competitive strategy game that has you choose one of 4 asymmetrical characters to play, and you'll be rebuilding your village so that the returning villagers have a place to live. And you interact with the other players by hiring their specialists to perform special actions. You'll also have to combat dangerous creatures to rescue villagers, all while you explore a fancy landscape filled with bizarre places, technologies, people, and meteorites. For heaven's sake, watch out for meteorites. And it includes 2 modes of play, standard and story. When playing in story mode, you read from a storybook when you explore, making choices and learning more about the characters and the world. And that's the news. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you think below and tell us what news sparked your interest. And I'll see you next time in 2 weeks. Until then, take care.